Well, welcome back. I've got another story to share. This time it's about San Clemente's sister cities of Dana Point and Capistrano Beach. All three of these cities share a great deal of history, including the fact that all three got their start within about a year of each other. And yes, timing is everything. In this case, their success would hinge on the creation of a paved highway to provide easier and reliable access to their proposed developments. Now again, I've added color to each of these historic images to help give them a pulse of sorts. Now is that a violin or a Tommy gun under his arm? No doubt a very timely promotional photo. Now in the 1889 map of the recently incorporated Orange County, you can see that most of the county is still consisted of a series of ranchos, a link back to the mission days. This included the areas of Dana Point, Capistrano Beach, and San Clemente. One way or another, though, most of the ranchos throughout the county still relied on raising cattle. Now, this next shot, I'm not exactly sure of the location or the date, but I imagine it was probably taken about 100 years ago. The gold rush in California created a huge demand for beef, and this led to a cattle boom with prices and herds rapidly increasing. In this shot here, this was titled Roundup at Forster Ranch in San Juan Capistrano. Doesn't get any more Wild West than that. Don Juan Forster actually drove a herd of cattle to San Clemente from San Juan in the early 1850s. Again, the Wild West, here we go. This photo was taken on Rancho Las Flores, the present location of Camp Pendleton. That's got to be someone's great-great-great-great-grandfather. Here's a Santa Fe Railroad steam engine with Pullman passenger cars. Now, the first car behind the tender looks like it could be an RPO or railroad post office car where they actually sorted mail while underway. And I think Huell Hauser did a show on them. Here's the railroad as it headed south. Beautiful shot at the beach. I think that's the telegraph line. Now, at about the same time, the Concord Stagecoach, as it was called, began ferrying passengers from El Toro train station, built the previous year in 1887, to the growing artist colony at Laguna Beach. Any real estate person will tell you it's location, location, location. Now here is a photo of the Laguna Hotel. You had to have some place to house visitors, and Laguna Beach took full advantage of their scenery and the beautiful coastline to lure artists to them instead of some of the other areas nearby. Now this is a picture of one of the original log cabins built by Harvey Hemingway, who homesteaded in Laguna in 1880. It was taken in about 1915. Looks like a little Model T. Maybe that was them sitting out in front. 1913, it was titled A Car Full of Visitors in Laguna. Now, what really surprised me was the fact that it looks like it's filled with women. Now, keep in mind, this is a full 6 years before women even won the right to vote. But then again, this is Laguna. Now, here's another shot of Laguna taken at about the same time. This must have been a very interesting time in history. You see a Model T on the right. You see two guys riding horses down the middle of the street. Kind of looks Wild West to me. You had to be a real adventurer to brave the dirt roads before the paved Roosevelt Highway was completed in October of 1926 in Laguna, and it looked like a lot of the area was farmed. I know that beginning in 1880, farmers in Southern California produced and shipped more lima beans than any other area in the world. Now this shot of Aliso Creek shows one of the original bridges that crossed the creek. The Thurston family homesteaded 152 acres of land in that canyon in 1871, one of Laguna's first families. Now, if you travel a little further up the coast, this is probably somewhere around 1905, along Arch Beach Road in Laguna. You can see a little bridge built over one of the little canyons there. That was a pretty common sight. Doesn't look too much like it does now. Now, I'm not sure the exact location of this shot, but I think it might be Moss Point. But certainly, if any of you watching there know, maybe you can leave a comment on the YouTube site there for all of us. Now, if you were really adventurous, you might travel further north. Here's a beautiful shot of Malibu. You can see the highway, or I should say roadway, right there. Now, as soon as they did put in a paved highway, I know my grandparents even began traveling further north to visit. Dana Point as well as Capistrano Beach and San Clemente, all owe an homage to the failed boomtown of San Juan by the Sea. This photo was titled San Juan by the Sea and taken in 1887. Must have been used for promotional purposes. Now this map is of the proposed city, and about all that remains of this boomtown are the railroad tracks and a couple familiar street names. The timing was just not right, at least not yet. Now here's what that area looked like about 30 years later. Like much of the coastal area that wasn't used to graze cattle, they used to grow beans, lima beans to be specific. 1887 also saw the first attempt at creating a city in Dana Point, an offshoot of San Juan by the Sea. It was titled Dana Heights, but it was really nothing but a paper town. This is pretty much what Dana Point would have looked like at about that time. Now I know that Judge Richard Egan, a justice of the peace in San Juan, is said to have successfully lobbied to rename the headlands as Dana Point in 1884. Now, speaking of Judge Egan, you can see him here sitting out in front of his house on Camino Capistrano, right across the street from the El Adobe. He did a lot of surveying and mapping, and you can see in this map right here the local area. This was actually used to create that Orange County map we looked at earlier. In 1914, the first permanent house was built in Dana Point by the Dahl sisters. Here she is. Here you can see the view she had all to herself. Well, I guess, and the photographer. Their large home still exists and is currently part of the Capistrano by the Sea. Now here's another shot. This is what she would have seen. Pristine just really doesn't do it justice. I don't think you can see any human activity anywhere there at all. Now this is the north side of Dana Point, or Dana Strands, and what it must have looked like probably at about that same time. The area now has some of the most expensive real estate in town. You can see a little dirt road there, could have been used by wagons as well. Now this aerial shot shows the first Dana Point in 1924. There's no paved highway, as it turned out, and this was to be the major obstacle for these initial developers in 1924. But I couldn't help notice in the distance a puff of smoke. This may be a blast of steam from the Santa Fe locomotive. I know that that's where the rail line was. In 1923, the San Juan Point Corporation was formed and acquired 900 acres to the west of Golden Lantern. Builders rapidly graded streets and built several amenities to entice buyers, and these included the gazebo lookout on Blue Lantern and the scenic inn built below on the beach. The gazebo is the only remaining structure left over from 1924, although I think the old caretaker's quarters were turned into bathrooms in the late 50s. Now, in order to make their way down to the beach, a fancy trail was constructed zigzagging down to the beach. Both the trail and the scenic inn were constructed with multicolored native cobblestones. Prospective buyers were served locally caught lobster on china dishes, and despite the prohibition, which lasted from 1920 until 1933, celebratory beverages were served to the guests in beer bottles. Yeah, pretty sure that was beer. Now, although this photo was taken 14 years earlier, you can see the original trails down to the beach used by fishermen for decades and probably first blazed by the indigenous peoples for centuries before that. The structure on the left is the home of Art Probar, a fisherman who settled at the cove with his family in 1911. The lack of a paved highway led to this development's demise. Less than 3 months after its grand opening, the property was foreclosed on. By 1929, though, the paved highway, Roosevelt Highway, was complete through Dana Point and continued down to the burgeoning cities of Capistrano Beach and San Clemente. Hey, check out that old steam shovel at work. These would actually be replaced with diesel-powered excavators within a decade or two, but I think you'd probably have to be about my age to recognize what exactly that is. Pretty amazing shot. There we go. There's another shot of the steam shovel right there. I think this is right as it comes down into, it's either right when you enter or right down there by where you enter the harbor. It's kind of hard to tell. Pretty amazing shot, though. Now, this photo shows the first train to pass over the new bridge built at what was called the Capistrano Y. This highway served as a vital artery for developers, and without the highway, none of these towns would have really gotten off the ground. Now, as these highways were being constructed, Hanson and Doheny began marketing their visions for a perfect seaside village. Here is Ole Hanson working his charm, complete with a dog. I think dogs always help to sell anything. Here's the Capistrano Beach sales office in the late 20s. You can see lots for sale for $400 with easy terms. I think that's what got everyone in hot water in the late 20s, though. That included sewer, water, and electricity. I believe that structure is currently the location of Beach City's glass. This photo was titled Mule Teams Grading Bean Fields near Estrella. That bowl area you see on the top of the photo shows what is now the east side of I-5 freeway. On the right, you'd find Ocean Hills Homes. Now, this shot right here is looking at Camino Estrella as it travels down towards the bluff, and was taken, I believe, in about 1927. Ned Doheny would eventually build his Spanish-style mansion there where that road would tee into Camino Capistrano. This shot is pretty amazing, aerial shot right here. You can see Estrella as it comes down to the bluff where it does. You can see Doheny's house, the stairs that he built down to get down to the coast, the beach club right there, what became Pines Park there to the left-hand side. Now there's that bowl area again that we looked at. I couldn't recognize it until I saw both pictures together there. Now this is Palisades Drive and what it looked like in around 1927 when they just graded it. You had homes up on top and you needed another access to get there. Now I know that I've just driven up the hill recently and you can still see some of the original rock work and the retaining walls they made. Now this shot was taken in the late 30s, I think. You can see the Palisades Drive, but in the distance there you see the Richfield oil tower built in 1928. It eventually came down, I think, in the late 60s. Now this is a great shot of the Capistrano Beach Club and adjoining guest house. If any of you have ever walked along the beach at Hole in the Fence, you can still find traces of the beach club in broken bits of tile and concrete. A beautiful sunset from the bluffs overlooking Capistrano Beach. This is the view that I used to enjoy as a kid, at least until they demolished it at the end of the 60s. Now, in 1926, builder Sidney Woodruff, LA Times publisher Harry Chandler, and other wealthy investors created the Dana Point Syndicate. This is the same group that built Hollywood Land. Now, here's a photo of the very first billboard advertising the new recreational community combining the sport of land and country estates by the sea. If anything, they learned that big signs work as a result of their Hollywood Land sign. You can still see it if you drive up through Hollywood, up on the hill. But hopefully it doesn't get burned down by this latest firestorm. Here is Sidney Woodruff with prospective buyers in 1927. If you were to count the stars on that flag, there's 48. It was the second longest lasting flag design from 1912 until 1959. In this aerial shot, you can see the recently completed Roosevelt Highway on the right and the pleasure pier built by the Woodruff Syndicate. Other amenities on the drawing board at the time included a golf course with a clubhouse, a yacht club, a breakwater with moorings, a 15-acre polo grounds, bridle trails, as well as a Pompeian-style heated saltwater plunge. The pier was the only one of these completed by the Depression. Now this classic shot of the gazebo at Blue Lantern, it looks like a promo shot too, kind of a little gangsterish. This was at the height of Al Capone's reign. Now this shot right here shows, was actually titled Land Agents at Dana Point. He had a big sales team right there. Now that structure still remains and is currently occupied by the Dana Point Music Shop on Del Prado. This photo shows some beautiful yachts anchored in the bay. They no doubt belong to many of the wealthy investors and probably all bought on credit. Now, this next shot shows Woodruff presenting a trophy for the first annual yacht race at Dana Point in 1929. It appears that not only did everyone wear hats in that era, but they had special hats for special occasions. Aye, aye, Captain. Or captains, I guess I should say. Now, to attract buyers, Woodruff also had a guest house built for visitors, and I think this may have been when Max Senetz sent down some models to do some promo shots for Woodruff. There were several other shots I know that were taken down on the beach. Now in this shot you can see the scenic inn at the base of the bluff, and the pier looks like it's still under construction. I think that was a steam-operated pile driver you saw at the end of the pier right there. It looks like it's probably low tide too, because you normally couldn't walk along the beach there. This promotional shot features Woodruff's wife and daughter, I believe, enjoying the small beach that really only existed at low tide. The house in the background is interesting. It was built by George Hannon, the sales manager. Boy, I tell you, I could get used to that. Now, this shot shows the completed pier. You can see the logo on the beach umbrellas that they came up with. It looks like a square rigged ship right there. Now, one of the few things you would see first things I should say you would see entering Dana Point from the north was the Blue Lantern Fountain Lunch, and it was built in 1925. It also had a gas station and living quarters above. This is the oldest commercial structure still in existence in town. And you can see here another shot of it right there. This is from the Dana Point Historical Society. It was taken probably from the Dana Point Tract Office, where it located in the same spot right where Coast Highway B's off with Del Prado. Now this shot I think was probably taken sometime in the 30s, probably the later 30s. Check out that car with the rumble seat right there. It's pretty trick. In this shot taken in 1927, you can see the Coast Highway there on the far left, still not paved at this point. Running next to that is Del Prado, and in the distance where Del Prado hits Golden Lantern, you can see Woodruff's Auditorium and Sales Office. In this photo, taken probably the same day, you can see the only structures that really existed in 1927. On the left is the Blue Lantern Cafe, and on the right of that is Woodruff's Tract Office. You can see both of them as you enter town from the north. Now, I'm old enough to remember the Dana dips, but I can't imagine speeding down them in an old Model A. I think most of my friends got airborne off those dips at one point in time before they kind of leveled them a bit. Now, Woodruff joined forces with Capistrano Beach and bought water-bearing lands along the San Juan River, and they were able to supply a reliable source of water to both communities. In this panoramic shot, you see no less than 3 billboards advertising lots for sale. They got you coming and going. I guess one thing they did learn in Hollywood land is big signs sell. In this post-depression shot here, you can see the Roosevelt Highway on the right, Del Prado splitting off at the top of the photo and running into Golden Lantern and Woodruff's Auditorium where they intersect. The Depression ushered in a decade of little or no growth in all of the Southern California beach towns. Things would begin to change when baby boomers arrived. Here's a group of students here at the Sarah School having lunch of soup and crackers, an iconic sign of the times. Somehow my grandparents managed to travel to the local area during the height of the Depression. Soon after settling down in the mountain community of Crestline in 1926, they began driving down to the coast and visit the local area. You see the headlands right there at Dana Point. This is an iconic view looking at Charlie's Cove and Dana Point. It's probably taken from Boneyard. The view looked almost identical to this when my brother Malcolm and I began visiting in the very early 60s. Surfers began discovering the large surf break here at about the same time this video was taken. Now I know that shot is blurry, but you could see the pier in the distance, and I think you could see the fisherman's home, Probar's home there as well. Now I've watched that dozens of times, but I missed my grandmother there up on the top of the bluff. My grandfather was great at having them pose for things, but lucky she didn't fall off the top of that thing. Now in this shot right here, you can see the Dana Villa Inn, completed in 1930. unfortunately demolished in the early 2000s. The lot remains vacant to this day. Now here's Dana Strands in about 1934. My mom, my uncle, along with my grandmother. A scene that hasn't really changed very much since that day. Again, if you added some color here, it might look like today. I see surfers down there still trying to pick off some of those waves every time I go down and take a walk along the trail there. Now this shot right here, the Chandler Sherman Corporation bought the property and eventually turned into the Dana Strand Beach and Tennis Club, which closed in the 80s and is now filled with some of the most expensive real estate around. My grandparents, again, continued on up the coast. There they were at Victoria Beach. And after watching his home movies, I certainly understand what drew my family here less than 30 years later. Well, again, thanks for watching. Hey, there's more to come. Aloha.